Imagine a fleece right off the sheep's back. What story does it tell about the animal, the environment, and the shepherd? Welcome to episode 2 of Wool & Spinning Vlogmas 2025. If you are just checking out my videos and you're new here, you might want to watch episode 1 of Vlogmas first, which is linked down below for you. I'll be releasing these videos every other day so that my production schedule isn't completely overwhelming, and I hope that you enjoy them. One of the things that I appreciate most about podcasting is sharing an amazing community space with you. And if you like what you see and hear throughout Vlogmas, consider joining us on Patreon. Links are below, and of course, please reach out to me if you have any questions. Today's prompt was a fun one. Let's imagine a fleece right off the sheep's back. We're out at a farm, possibly in late March or early April here in the Northern Hemisphere, which is early spring, and we are taking a break to have coffee and chat about the work that we are doing today. What story does the fleece tell us about the animal, the environment that it was grown in, and the shepherd or the shepherdess or the team? As we sit around the fire that has been lit by our dear friend who is hosting us for the day, let's think about the environment that we find ourselves. For those who haven't spent much time on a farm, there are often large pastures of grass and areas of shelter for the animals themselves. What kind of guard animals does this particular farm have, and why? Maybe on this farm they've chosen donkeys because they were able to rescue a pair from a local farm down the road that was having trouble paying for feed for the pair. This particular farm has a couple of elderly border collies that used to do sheep trials and herd them up like no other in the area, but they're older now. One is having trouble with her hips and the other is having trouble with his eyesight. They continue to walk with our farmer friend around the pastures and sometimes bark at the sheep to keep them in line, but this same level of work just isn't there anymore. While there will always be a dog or two on the farm, the donkeys are great guard animals for the flock now. The donkeys are wandering in the pasture and you see them from where you sit with your hot cup of coffee. They instinctively dislike dogs, coyotes, and wolves, which are not often seen on the farm, but sometimes you can hear the bark of the coyotes as local development is pushing them further and further out of their traditional hunting grounds. You know they are around on the farm sometimes, but so far the farmer says they've been really lucky not to have to deal with any coyote attacks. This particular farm has about 10 chickens in their coop down the slope a ways, and you can hear them clucking happily. It's nice not to have to worry about the coyotes too much with the donkeys nearby. The donkeys are kind and wander to the fence, braying quietly. They don't need much upkeep and their vet bills have been quite low compared to the dogs recently, remarks your farmer friend. They're really hoping they have another 15 years with them since they were young when they took over their care. Since they're really consistent in their instincts, they know they'll be great companions for a long time. The sheep don't seem to mind having them around, and they stay with the sheep throughout the days in the fenced area. The farmer remarks that friends have a guard llama, and while that's been really great for them, she doesn't envy having another animal to shear on a day like today. We set up the shearing in the barn, where one of the guys who's done his shearing certifications will be doing a bit of a talk later about his tools. You know he spends a lot of time maintaining his blades to ensure clean cuts that never hurt the sheep. Shearing, as we know, is necessary for all these animals since they've been cultivated over thousands of years to have their coats removed by humans. Not removing them is cruel, as it can cause overheating, mobility issues, and eventually death. As we finish our coffee, we wander down to the barn where the shearer is getting ready. He left a few minutes early and you notice his coffee is still mostly full. He's keen to get started on the sheep who seem to sense he's around and getting ready. There's a buzz in the air. Your farmer friend raises these sheep for fiber alone. They are knitters and hand spinners at heart, loving the idea of farm to yarn, of movement to understand where yarn comes from and how it's made. They're passionate and excited about getting the shearing done today. The ewes push against one another to see what's happening, and you can see bits of hay in their fleeces from feeding, play, and just generally being sheep. The beautiful fleece will comb out nicely. Most of these particular sheep are crosses of Shetland, BFL, and Gotland that have thrived in the slightly damp environment that seems to be experiencing less and less rainfall every year. You notice some beautiful Clun Forest fleece sitting on the skirting table that was already sheared this morning from a lovely ewe that always grows amazing fleece. With your remaining coffee, you wander over and begin skirting the fleece to be helpful. Some of these fleeces will head to the mill to be made into amazing yarns, but some will be for hand spinners who want to work directly from the raw fleece, scouring and processing themselves. Removing the dirty wool and looking more closely, you can see that the fleece is going to be absolutely beautiful to work with. While it might need a few more washes to get clean, it's not laden with lanolin that will be hard to remove. Instead, it has a lovely crimp and a soft creamy color that would take the dye in a most lovely way. You wonder about talking to the farmer to set it aside for you, or to at least find out what the plan is for this particular fleece. You can tell just from looking at the fleece that the animal was happy and healthy while growing it. You notice the ewe it came off of, freshly sheared and out in the pasture with her mates. She's a beautiful ewe and watching you closely as if to say, "You're welcome." The fleeces that come across your skirting table throughout the day are all a little bit different. Some will be creamy white after scouring, while others are a warm charcoal gray. Some are larger, while others are quite small. The Shetlands seem to be the smallest of the bunch, but most are single coated, which seems to be more common the last number of years as their double coat has been slowly bred out on this particular farm. You can tell in all the fleeces that the staple lengths are consistent, which means that the feed has been good for these animals on this particular farm because their fleece is even with strong growth. None of the locks break or have evidence of thin or weak spots. These are sometimes called breaks or tenderness in the fleece, but you haven't seen any of that today. Sometimes stress, illness, lambing, and feed changes can cause these things, but not this year. While all the fleece has some degree of vegetable matter, or VM, in the fleece, from hay to burrs to seeds, the fleece is mostly clean. None of the VM will be difficult to remove, and you notice that the two fleeces the shepherd is hoping to enter in the fleece auction this summer were coated to keep the fleeces as clean as possible. You notice the different sized coats hanging in the barn for changing as the fleece grows to ensure that it is not too tight. You notice a gorgeous BFL Gotland cross that is thrown across your skirting table next. Its lustrous locks are evident before you even started skirting or looking closely. The farmer is close by and remarks on how happy they are with this particular fleece. You wonder if this one will be saved for a hand spinner's fleece or if it will be milled. You suspect the former. The staple length appears to be about 4.5 inches or 11 centimeters, which would be lovely to either card or comb. You start dreaming as you skirt about some beautiful silk blended with this particular fleece to bring out the sheen and the luster even more. Maybe a woven stole or a scarf, a warm drapey cardigan, and you begin daydreaming as the fleece is bagged and marked for a hand spinner. Another fleece is thrown across your table and you do a double take. "Didn't you just do this fleece?" Our farmer friend laughs and says, "Oh, this is the daughter." Of course. The heritable characteristics in the fleeces, from crimp style to brightness, fiber length, and of course density, the fleeces are so similar. The farmer is leaning over the fleece and comparing locks from other fleeces sheared earlier in the day. You realize they're making breeding decisions for later in the spring. It begins to drizzle, as it is prone to do in the Pacific Northwest, and you finish skirting this particular fleece before bagging it up, putting a special label on it to ask about it later, and move on to the next one. The shearer throws another fleece your way, and as you spread it out, you are overwhelmed by quite the smell. A ram's fleece, but it's another beauty, a warm charcoal gray with sun bleaches from the lovely boy whose disposition is quite lovely. He's off back outside into another pasture away from the ewes because accidents, and is grazing on fresh spring grass. The day passes in a blur of movement and work. It is good work and you enjoy every minute of it. Towards the end of the day, your farmer friend approaches with warm apple cider and asks you how you're feeling. They both look tired but happy, and you say as much. They smile and look at the bag you've set aside. With a knowing eye, they ask you which fleece it is, and when you admit which one, that you set it aside, they break into a huge smile. Of course it's yours. Absolutely. The shepherd makes their way back up the slope towards the fire. The work is done for the day, but the work is never finished. They'll be back out in the early morning hours when we are warm in our beds, moving the sheep out of the barn, feeding and watering them, along with the donkeys and checking on the dogs. The farm chores never end, and it is with a warm heart that you head home to start scouring. I hope you have enjoyed our day at the farm. This was largely inspired by farm visits to my friends Margaret, Anne, and Beatrice. Thank you to each of you for the work that you do to create amazing fleeces for us to work with as hand spinners. Anyone that you would like to say thank you to for their wool work, please comment below. And for more about woolen spinning in our community, please have a look in the down bar. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can find me on Instagram as Woolen Spinning. Check out Patreon to join the community at patreon.com/woolenspinning/join, and I'll see you in episode 3, Hands in the Wool. Until next time, happy spinning. Bye for now.